YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this thing. We've got all new from E-flite, the Viper 64. This thing is set up out of box, ready to go with AS3X Plus, which is pretty sweet. Spring-loaded oleos on all three of the landing gear, which is really nice. They are fixed gear, given that it's a 64 millimeter, but we do get beautiful lights, flaps, and every other function that you want on an EDF plane. I also turned on thrust reverse, and I'll show you how to do that, as well as all the different setup in our unbox build radio setup, so stay tuned. All right, guys, so we got the throttle cut off, takeoff flaps. Here we go. Holy cow, that thing gets off the ground quick. Get out of the flaps. Critically low warning. 4S 2200 30C. Beautiful LEDs. It's chiming at me like crazy. See how the AS3X Plus works on this thing. So far, so good. Thing screams. I think it's wanting a little bit more powerful pack, to be honest. A little higher C rating, maybe. A couple clicks of trim on the elevator would help too. So let's try some slow speed. There's takeoff flaps, there's landing flaps. Beautiful. Let's actually try shooting a couple landings. Okay. Love the trim livery. We have a timer set for 4 minutes. I'm not sure if we're gonna get there. Full landing flaps this time. Man, that thing just glide in forever. Pilot fatigue, put it down. So pilot fatigue meaning thrust reverse with pilot fatigue. Now, of course, you could belly land this if you want, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to controllable thrust reverse, bring it back. Very easy to control. The reverse thrust works really nice on this. All right, so take off flaps, take back off. A little touchy. So if you guys have ever flown other Vipers, this thing is extremely light on its feet. I just wish that the battery wasn't complaining so much. I bet they're gonna suggest a 50C pack, hun. Because I'm using a 30. I bet that's what's going on. Beautiful. Man, the sweat bees are really bothering me today. Are they getting you too?
Yeah, they are.
It's really distracting.
Yes.
Full landing flaps here, right over the top. Can you go one step to your right, please? Thank you, good job. Absolutely gorgeous slow flight handling. Rudder is delectable. You got tons of rudder authority. The thing just feels perfect. Got a little bit of crosswind now. I'm flying with the wind. I want to see what it looks like if I come from the other angle here.
Okay.
But just remember, the Vipers will slip out from under you if you're not careful. Okay, so takeoff flaps are deployed. We'll just bring it in here over the top. Full landing flaps now, slowing it down. Just a tiny bit of thrust to get that EDF spooled up in case we need power. And there we are, beautiful. Whoa. Well, I guess it does grass ops. But guys, like, that thing is bouncy and floaty. It's crazy, actually. I'm taking back off, that was lame.
Okay.
Now it's in the try to protect my battery mode, which is kind of annoying. Full landing flaps.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Pilot fatigue, slow it down. And she's right there. Guys, all I got to say is the thing does everything you want it to do, and it does a really nice job of it. The only thing I don't like about it right now is the fact that the gear aren't going up, because I think the lines on a Viper are just amazing. And I'm not crazy about the way this 30C pack is working. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna swap out to a higher C pack, and we're gonna see how much better we can get it to perform. Okay, so we just got inside, and just to give you an idea, I didn't show you the screen outside because it's hard to see out there. We really used up that voltage in that pack, okay? So we're gonna pull this out, and it was chiming and alarming the whole time I was flying, which is really distracting and frustrating. But it is nice to know that it's not happy about the amount of amp load that we're drawing. And so let's pull out this 30C pack and see if there's any puffing. I don't think it's, well, it's pretty toasty. There's a little bit of roundness going on, but I don't think that's from this flight. Also, I just want to look at one setting here under telemetry. Smart battery. Yeah, I don't care about that. I don't care about that, and I don't care about that. And I wonder if that might have been what they were doing, what they were chiming at us for. 4 cells, 3.4. I guess I could do voice and see if the voice helps me understand what's going on. Okay, so we'll just try that. We'll see how it goes. This time we're gonna use a 100C pack. This one has been used. It's seen some life. So we're gonna see if this gives us a little bit better performance. 100C pack should be quite a bit more resilient than, of course, a 30C pack. But it's not quite, you know, like you might think, where it's 3 times as resilient. It's not really the way it works. The C rating is, I guess, to me, just a little bit better at 100 than it would be at a 50. And I don't think I have a 50 in this size class, do I?
I don't think we do.
And then let's go ahead and plug this in, and we'll just show you what the voltage comes up as. So when I plug that in, it should wake up the charger, the S2200. And if it doesn't, then I'll switch over. Oh yeah, so 28%. And there you go, about 3.8. Yeah, so it's pretty much used up. So 4-minute flight time, that's about what you're gonna expect to get unless you're real reserved on the way you're flying. Okay, so we'll get this plugged in. Also, I wanna show them one other thing while we're in here, because it's comfortable. Gotta wait for it to initiate. Quick release on the landing gear right here. You can undo this, a thumb nut, and that takes off the nose gear. And then these just slip out by snapping out forward, okay? So we'll probably show that at some point, but for now, I wanna get back out and do some more wheels up, wheels down. I really enjoy flying this plane, just like the bigger ones. If you've ever flown the 90, it's amazing. If you've flown the 70, it's a great plane as well. But this thing is just gonna get you in for a lower price point, and it's gonna be even smaller. And the build is phenomenal. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right outside. All right, so 2200 4S, 100C this time. Taking off with the wind, not probably the smartest choice. Here I am trying to retract the gear. It's a 50% pass now. Takeoff flaps to help give me a little bit more authority. I don't know if you guys knew, but if you turn on your takeoff flaps, you can actually make your elevator just a little bit more effective at changing the pitch of your plane. So if you feel like you're having to give too much elevator, that's one way you can potentially help. Boy, that Day Bright LED on the top is so bright.
Yeah, they are.
I can see all the LEDs really good right now. It's gonna be super nice in fall when we start getting dark early. And I gotta say, the AS3X has this thing locked in, folks. Okay, so out of the flaps all together. So if you guys have never flown any of the other Vipers, you might not understand, but this thing just she's giving me some warnings, but she's just calling out the actual voltage in amps. Man, it just feels locked in. Guys, I want you to see this without AS3X real quick. So I got it off now. That's pretty cool. And I just think the Viper is a really solid platform. Okay, now AS3X back on. Wind is just shifty today, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, it is.
It's like changing a lot. Full landing flaps, let's see how this does. Probably way too fast right now. You know, I'm just, for kicks, I'm gonna go ahead and try grass ops because this thing feels like it'll do grass ops.
I know, it seems...
Like you should not be able to do grass ops with a 64. Can I get off the ground? That would be my low voltage.
Oh.
You see it's pulsing?
Yep, I heard it.
So let me see. There we go. So basically it could do grass ops if you were doing it right at the beginning of your flight. Yeah, I'm getting pulsing, so that means I need to land.
104 Fahrenheit, ESC 13.4 volts, 49 amp, 104 Fahrenheit.
And the pilot fatigue comes in really handy on this. Very, very good flight performance, easy to fly, does all the things you want. It's very light on its feet. It's surprising how good the thing taxis in the grass. It doesn't want to tip over. It's just really rock solid. So I guess the only thing we haven't done is we haven't done a hand launch. So I feel like we'd be doing this plane a disservice if we didn't hand launch with a fresh battery. So we're gonna go ahead and swap out for a fresh battery and we'll do a hand launch into the wind and we'll do a belly landing on the grass. You can see how well it does. Okay, so we're gonna swap out the battery, and I guess I realized you haven't seen me load a battery yet. So it's really easy to load a battery. We talk about this a lot in our unbox build radio setups. Full disclosure, I'm going back to a 30C 4S 2200. Since we have an early product sample, we had a couple of different weirdities that came up in our unbox build radio setup, not the least of which is not knowing the exact CG, but we're running about here. Should be close, it's probably not perfect, but I felt like I had plenty of authority over the aircraft, both in pitch and roll. Okay, so this one, I kind of have to tuck that down. And there's a couple of different ways I've had to do that, but just be careful because the elevator, see this elevator where all the wires are? That's not maybe ideal, okay? Because as you can see, it rubs along the wires. So I just don't want this wire to come up and pop the canopy, okay? I don't think it's gonna pop it because we do have a clasp holder, okay? Now, also, I want to talk about how easy it is to pull off these landing gear while we're in here looking at this. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this. Okay. So it's just like a thumb nut, as you can see here. Okay. And then you just pull it down. And then just throw caution to the wind on that. Doesn't need to be unplugged or anything. And then you can secure this in here. Okay, pretty simple. And then on the mains, go ahead and put the canopy back on. These ones, you just kind of pull them forward and pivot on this point here. Okay, so just like that, and then straight out. They work really nice. I love the spring loads on these. The landing gear is super, super soft. But that also will launch you back into the air, which is what we saw happen on one of those landings. So the ventral fins are magnetically attached. So the camera crew was like, are you just gonna let them pop off or are you gonna take them off when you know you're landing? And I said, to be honest, I kind of want them on there for the aerodynamic effect that they present. but I guess we'll find out if it's really hard to find them. Then that'll help to drive my decision making for future flights. All right, so we'll see you outside. Okay, so there's 2 and 3 holes, okay? So it's really easy to get that forward throw. You could also launch it this way. Just be careful you don't grab the nose because it's got that magnetically attached point. Throttle cuts off, takeoff flaps are deployed. Notice the wind socket showing the wind coming from this direction. I'm gonna go into safe, and then I'm gonna give it throttle. That was super easy.
Yeah, it was.
Out of the flaps, I'm out of the safe. Now I'm just AS3X. A few steps over, please. So the thing that's crazy about this is that this plane just flies so dang good. It's almost uneventful. Okay, I need you to go another step over. Okay, out of the flaps now. I was not out of the flaps. I apologize. What are you doing?
Sorry.
Can you go back where you were? Thank you. Going through the hole. And then up and over. And we're going to the pulse again. So I think that this plane is just super eager for the batteries that we've picked. This is the 30C pack. And I think what's gonna happen is if you guys decide to fly this, you're gonna wanna fly it on 50 or 100C packs. It's not like I'm losing the plane because of it. I just can't believe how dang good it's doing on a 4S pack. It feels incredibly fast. And it's greasy. It just does everything it does really good. Now, full landing flaps are huge, okay? So watch the landing flaps here. Okay, here they come. Look at those things. You don't want to probably land with those full landing flaps. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is I'll have to come out of the flaps right when I'm getting ready to touch down, or pull the tail along the ground. I just don't want to hit the landing flaps, right?
Right.
So the ESC and the battery, I think that's the biggest thing. Is if you guys are end up buying this, I would get yourself something with the highest C rating that you can handle. And you're gonna have a really good experience with this plane because it is really good. Full landing flaps on the way down. Inside. Look at that thing getting kicked around and it's just totally under control. And I'm just letting the battery recover. Oh, we're low.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to land. Sorry, I gotta kind of cut in front of here just a little bit. Full landing flaps here. Out of the flaps, and then down. So just to be clear, we have wind going this way, and doing a crosswind down here, I could have gotten away with it, but it's like straight 90 degrees to the runway. And I figured since we launched that way, it would make sense to go ahead and land this way. And that wind really made that landing very easy. In fact, this plane lands easy in general. I was surprised. The only thing it's not good for is that those spring-loaded gear that are so soft will actually bounce you back into the air. So be careful about that. And you guys will notice my landing flaps are shut off. I went ahead and got out of the flaps before I put the belly down. And otherwise, an uneventful, very good flight. And I got a little bit of grass there, so I'll just let that fall out and put it back down. I was afraid we were getting tons of junk in there, and as you can see, we do have a little bit. See? Show the people?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure exactly the best way to get rid of that, and that I don't think that's a cheater as much as that's going to get in there and help cool down the inside. And then these things caught a little bit of grass like I expected they might. Okay, so in closing, the Viper 64 is everything that you've expected out of every other Viper. The only difference is it's smaller, it's less expensive, it's cheaper to battery, and it's definitely a blast to fly, okay? So if you haven't ever experienced the Viper, I would highly consider the 64 millimeter Viper from E-flite. Super fun, super fast, super easy to fly, and you're gonna enjoy it. Now, is it as easy as the Habu? No. I don't think this would be, you know, like a first jet, but you could probably do it as a first jet. I would suggest the Habu. It's a lot slower. It's gonna be a little easier to get on the ground. It's gonna be easier to launch. It's gonna be less demanding on the battery. Also, as you can see, my 30C packs are not happy about the amount of load on this. So I would suggest that if you do fly this on a 30C pack, you need to just plan on having her talk to you a lot while you're flying, which is what my radio was doing the whole time. She was giving me instructions. And then also I was getting to lots of pulsing throttle. I'm gonna give you guys a demo of what that sounds like. Okay, so the scary part of a pulsing throttle like that is that this thing flies fine with it. Most planes, you kind of lose the ability to continue flying. It forces you to land. This plane, it doesn't. It's got enough thrust on the off pulse to keep flying, which means it's very efficient, and it's gonna be dangerous because you guys are gonna wanna fly 6-minute flights, and you're gonna need to be flying 4.5-minute flights or 4-minute flights, okay? Brand new pack, 4 minutes, that's probably about what you're gonna get in my experience. Now, does this fly on more than 4S? If it does, I don't know about it, but I am really happy with the way this thing turned out. I love the yellow. I love the livery. It looks gorgeous. It's very easy to see. It's striking in the sky, and the thing handles the wind and everything else that's thrown at it so far. The AS3X Plus works phenomenal, and I love the fact that they thought of all the details for the landings with belly landings, and they also have a toolless install and uninstall of the landing gear, which is something that could be adopted to many, many other planes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna have a belly lander and you wanna do wheels up, wheels down, I don't wanna have to drag tools to make a moderate change like that, okay? So beautiful, and your biggest complaint on this model is gonna be the fact that it doesn't have retracts, okay? But then again, it's not really a complaint so much as a reality of a 64 millimeter jet. You're gonna tend to not have retracts in this size class. I don't know of any 64s that has retracts. I think it'd be cool if the manufacturers would use a large servo and then actuate the retracts by linkages like we used to do a long time ago. The trouble with that is that large servos are a lot less prominent, they're a lot more expensive, and when they fail, then it's complicated. And I just think if you had a sweeper inside of here and you had a big servo that ran retracts, that'd be super sweet, and then maybe do a servoless retract for the nose gear. The other thing too I think about on this plane is I think we have open ports on this receiver. And so to me, a big selling point of AS3X Plus is to have a steerable nose gear that actually does additional landing gear. What do they call that?
Nose wheel stabilization.
Nose wheel stabilization, which means instead of the amplitude of the rudder, you've got a higher amplitude assigned to this axis, okay? We've already experienced it once. It is phenomenal. And you guys saw it when I first tried to take this thing off. I was all over the place with it because there's a lot of nose gear authority, and you can turn on a dime with this plane. Well, the trade-off is when you go into take off, it wants to jake all over the place. This plane doesn't tip over like an F-16 or an F-18, but it looks bad doing it, okay? If we have an open port, why aren't we using it? That would be a good question for the people at Horizon. If you want to add that feature, you should be able to add it because I believe we've got the open port for it on channel 5 right there, because we do not have retracts on this plane.
Yep.
So you could split out this one rudder line, you could put it in there, factory reset your receiver, and then just build it like a plug and fly. But because we're doing this video as a review of a product that you can purchase, we don't want to make a large change that might be deceiving to you as you're watching us do it, okay? So our unbox build radio setup is going to show you all of our experience when we got this, keep it in mind that it is an early product sample. And so because of that, we had a couple of hiccups, if you want to call it. Even with all that considered, one of the easiest builds we've done in ages.
Yep.
I think we were down to 11 piece count if you include a manual, which we did not have.
Yeah.
Okay. So amazing plane, very well done. E-flite makes great planes, and they do a very good job with their receivers, especially given that this is a bind and fly with the first offering with AS3X Plus installed. Okay. So some of you guys might have realized that AS3X Plus was available when the 300 or the extra 330 came out.
Yes.
But it wasn't installed in the planes when you got them. Okay. You can upgrade to add that feature, which just basically means you have to do the software updates on the receiver yourself, which just takes a few minutes, and then set up your profile on your receiver or your transmitter again. So it's not a really hard process, but my suggestion is that you might consider doing it because the AS3X Plus has been really good. Now, also the other thing too, as we go into the world of AS3X Plus, you might want to think about having an additional steerable nose gear servo. Historically, I have not split them out because I didn't think there was that much more value in it, because you could only set the rates lower, but the stabilizer, like if you did a twin tail setup and you made one tail the rudder and one tail the steerable nose gear, you couldn't adjust the output enough to make the stabilizer work. Now we have a delay for how long it takes for the gear to come down. When it's up in the pocket, it doesn't stabilize, which is really good for battery life and current draw on the servo that does the steerable. It's also good for the fact that you're not having a stabilizing agent running when you're not needing it. Okay. So as soon as it retracts, then it comes active and it starts stabilizing. You can stabilize it like a factor of 3 times what you might do on your rudder. So it works really nice. So super excited to bring you all this latest and greatest technology rolled up into a very nice package here with the Viper 64. I hope you guys will consider getting one. And if you do, get it from the links in the video description below and help out Brian Phillips RC. When you buy from the links, we make small commissions from the sale of those products. But just remember, this plane is not for everybody, just like every plane we've ever done. I do think that this would be an early plane, an early EDF jet for somebody that's interested in getting into EDF jets. I still firmly believe that the Habu 50 would be a perfect starting point. It's very inexpensive. It's cheap to battery. You can fly the thing on 3S if you want, or 4S. In fact, you could get the same batteries you're going to get for this, just buy a higher C rating. Start with a Habu 50 and then slide right into this. It's going to be a great place to be. Okay. Now, if you want something even easier, you can start with a conventional non-jet plane, but in the order of jets, this is a relatively easy beginner jet. It's not the easiest. It's certainly not the hardest, but it is one of the cheaper offerings that's going to be in a 64 millimeter offering that's still going to give you that good flight characteristic. And we really love to be able to be involved with these early releases so you guys can learn a little bit from us. And our Unbox Build radio setup will help some of you that need some help getting started. So hopefully you'll check that out. The video should be alive and active right now. You can check that out at your leisure, but hopefully we answered all your questions about this Viper jet. It's very cool. It's very good. I expected no less from it. And to be honest with you, the only thing I don't like about it, like I said, is the fact that the gear are fixed, and I knew that going in. So what are you going to do? Everything else about this plane is exactly what I expected, and my expectations were high because the other two Vipers that I have are phenomenal. All right, camera crew, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Get higher C packs.
Yep.
And get the jet from the link. Guys, you'll help support Brian Phillips RC. If you don't want to support us in that way, you want to support us other ways, maybe you've already got this plane and you're watching it a couple years after you bought it to find a tip or trick or something like that. You can also support us with Patreon, monthly support, YouTube members, monthly support, YouTube super thanks, one-time donations, and then one-time donations through PayPal. All of those are accepted all the time, and we sure appreciate them, and it really does help keep the lights on at Brian Phillips RC. But the best way to support Brian Phillips RC is watch the videos, smash the like button, click the bell when you're subscribing so you get notified of all the new content, which there's so much more right around the corner. here on Brian Phillips RC. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. All new from E-flite, Viper Jet, 64 millimeters. This thing has all the bells and whistles with the exception of one, and that is retracts. So who's gonna buy this? People that fly from grass strips. And guess what? It will actually do grass ops with the gear in our personal experience. Toolless install on all 3 gear. Here's the nose gear. Thumb nut goes on the inside, and there is an octagonal slider that goes to the steerable nose gear. Okay, so super easy to do if you decide you want to switch out and go fly from the road or wherever you're flying. So we're gonna, with that, take off right now and fly this other side of our property, which we almost never fly. So without further ado, throttle cuts off, takeoff flaps deployed. Yes, it does have flaps. We set some barn doors on here. Beautiful LEDs. They're gonna help with the lighting as we go into the fall. And then safe. So auto leveling. And we also have AS3X Plus on this plane. 3 holes for hand launch. We're flying ours on 2200, 4S, 100C, but I also am tempted to throw in a 3200 for a little bit longer flight times, and it might help because this thing is power hungry, okay? So without further ado, we're gonna hand launch right here. It's got tons of power. My 3rd finger goes here and I push it forward. And that is, I believe, the launch assist. You can see it went up. I did not do that. So now I'm out of safe. And I'm just flying in AS3X. Takeoff flaps still deployed. I promise not to land in the water.
Heard that before.
So guys, you've never seen, or you might not have seen this part of our property. So full throttle. Very exciting stuff. But I know a lot of you guys long to have a plane like the Viper, but since you fly from a grass strip, it just doesn't make sense because you don't want to have a plane with retracts to just go get broken in the grass. Okay, full landing flaps. Let's see a slow pass. So we're going to do this with wheels up, wheels down too at the end of the video. Guys, this thing is super easy to control. Tons of power. Beautiful flying side, actually. I'm surprised we haven't done this before.
It's a little tight down here.
That's what she said. Inside. So guys, if you haven't ever experienced the other Vipers, this plane is really very good, just like the other Vipers. But you get the added benefits of the AS3X Plus. Take off flaps now, just so I can go a little bit slower. Full landing flaps now. We'll go a lot bit slower. Right over the top of the alfalfa. That's where the full scale planes like to land here. Oh yeah! Thanks, Joel, for doing that. And I was actually thinking of Nolan, who was the longtime supporter on Patreon, one of our first, who helped line that up, because he's friends with Joel. So very cool. So what goes around comes around, especially if it's a Viper. Now, it also started pulsing, and I do know that this ESC will start pulsing pretty early for my taste, if you ask. So I'm gonna just relax a little bit. I got a minute 38 left. Camera crew and I are gonna go toward the tree line just a little bit.
Okay.
Because we're gonna try to land it here on the grass. And since this is a new site for me, I'm gonna have to kind of figure out my line. I think I'm gonna go out here and just test it. So guys, when you're at a new flying site, full landing flaps here, we'll just slow it way down. Look at that thing slowing down on the way downhill. Gotta love flaps, guys. Flaps are what make tight flying sites possible. Just remember, you gotta shut those flaps off before you put down, or you're gonna break them, okay? So just remember that. Very symmetrical behavior upside down. You guys know I don't hardly ever do upside down flying, but just remember, this thing, it's got the power, but the pack kinda doesn't. So I don't know if I go to a bigger pack, if I can absolve this plane of that issue, But even on a 100C pack, which has seen a lot of life, admittedly, you know what? I want to land the other way. I think it's going to be cooler looking.
Okay.
So I'm just in efficiency mode here. You guys know how Brian Phillips efficiency mode works. Way too fast, way too close. Okay, so going out there, and we'll bring it right down the opening. We'll slow it down nicely, and then we'll just get out of the flaps really, really quick when we're ready to touch down. Out of the flaps, pull, full back elevator, and she's on the ground. And we have 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds of 4, okay? So what do you think of that? It's an amazing all new offering from E-flite. Love the livery, looks just like the big ones. I love the 90, I love the 70. To be honest with you, the only thing I don't love about this is the fact that I have the other two, okay? But we have a paved runway, okay? If you don't have a paved runway, you're probably singing a different tune. And so that's why we chose to start with the gear off. We almost never do gear off because I love wheels up, wheels down. And I gotta say, one of the best features on this plane is these very soft landing gear. And yes, even this crappy grass you could probably put down with the landing gear. Now, I'm not gonna test that theory because I don't wanna break my plane, but our grass up front will handle it, and we've done it. My plans are to switch the battery. I'm gonna probably try a 3200 50C, which is a newer pack with a little less wear and tear on it. And we'll go ahead and see how that CG's out. Because our early product sample did not have a manual in it, I'm estimating the center of gravity. So fortunately for me, I've had a few Viper jets, like 5. So awesome plane, you'll love it. You definitely need to get one from the link in the video description below if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC and the things that we do to help engage an audience that's definitely getting deeper in the RC habit, okay? If you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, what we do here is we teach people start to finish how to do RC. If you're coming back from a hiatus, we'll help you get there. You go to the hobby shop and they start throwing out terminology, you have no clue what they're talking about. You get a Chinese manual and they're just ludicrous. We'll help interpret them by making fun of them. And then we'll make it work, okay? We don't always get it right, but we do our best. And we've got enough experience with failure that we can help you to avoid it. So you're in the right place if you want to start flying. Is this a beginner jet? You could take that position, but really the Habu 50 is a way better choice. It's cheaper to battery. You can do 3 or 4S, but you could do a 4S 2200 high C pack in your Habu 50, and then you could advance into this very easy. I mean, it could easily be your 3rd or 4th jet, no problem. But just remember, Vipers bite. That's why they're called a Viper, I think. If you get into a stall, they will fall, just like every plane. But it just seems more aggressive, and people claim that they tip stall. Just keep it G-loaded. If you fly, just pull back on the elevator when you're in turns and keep the wing working. If you pull back really hard, you can high-speed stall them too, but you have to work at that. So, very good plane, airframe is solid. And by the way, let's take a look real quick underneath and see how much wear and tear we had. This grass is actually a lot rougher than our grass up front. This is actually a harvest grass, and so it's used for animal feed. And you can see these things go forward to clip in the landing gear. So I'll just go ahead and install these right now. So this is the front gear. So I'll go ahead and take this thumb nut out. I'm just gonna hold it with my mouth, which is weird.
I could help you, but.
With your mouth? Okay. So also, there is a thumb nut that has to be installed so the camera crew can hold that.
Okay.
So you have to put this steerable nose gear thingy on, which it's not like real hard to do. It's just a little awkward out in the field. Thank you for holding my thing.
Anytime.
That makes, turn it. There you go. Okay, you can let go. Now you're not helping.
Sorry.
So all you have to do is just basically push this up into the octagonal receiver. But I'm just like, oh, there it goes. It popped up. And it's not super hard. I'm just trying to do this with too many things in my hands.
Yeah.
And the back landing gear are actually super easy to install. But now that I've said how easy it is, I've jinxed myself.
Well,
so just stay tuned.
One hand.
Yeah, I'm only using one hand. Here, I'll just try it this way. I wanted to demonstrate that you can do it one-handed. That was kind of my aim here. Because, you know, the type of people that are going to be flying this might want to fly it on both surfaces. So I want to show how easy it can be, which is why I've made it look so hard. Now, one big miss on this plane, if you ask my opinion, we have a 6-channel receiver. And Horizon, maybe you can answer this question because maybe I'm misunderstanding something about AS3X Plus. It is new for us. We did finally update all of our transmitters, and there is a steerable nose gear stabilizer that will delay for landing gear. So you can actually have another channel where you turn it on to land, which is pretty cool. But you would have to use this unused channel here, channel 5, and you would have to reassign it to a non-primary surface like rudder, okay? We'll show you how to do that in a video that already released, but we can't talk about it right now because it hasn't released. So this one here, you could have that stabilizing at about 3 times the stabilization of the rudder. And you'll understand why that's handy when you fly this plane, because it is a little bit squirrely on the ground. Is it manageable? Sure. But it's AS3X manageable. And I'm like, why are we using AS3X Plus without using AS3X Plus? And I think the reason that they did that is because some people will want to steal that channel and set up crow. Also keep in mind, you see how easy this is? You slide it in and then you snap it back. I have to kind of present it to my chest so that I don't break anything. Then I just slip it back. There you go. As easy as that. Now, I'll just show you taxiing right now on this rougher grass because this might be a better analog for your field. Okay, so you can see that taking off. In fact, I'm 100% sure I could take off from that. Do I want to land like that? It might be a little rough on it. And by the way, one of my biggest complaints on 64mm size class, we have a runway. I want to do wheels up, wheels down, and I want retracts because jets look good without gear. They also fly a lot better, okay? So if you can have the best of both worlds and the lower budget price point of this new 64mm Viper, I think you're going to find that it is a good fit for a lot of people, especially young people that are trying to emerge into the market, okay? Now that does not mean I'm going to sit here and pretend that this is a beginner jet. I don't do a lot of beginner jets. There isn't a jet that's a beginner other than the Habu, because it really kind of is a beginner. You could probably learn to fly a Habu STS and you could find success if you had a big enough field, okay? I still wouldn't do it. It would not be the best move. I would start with a Carbon Cub S2 or something like that. And then I would advance into jets. I had a Habu UMX with AS3X only, which was little, and that's back when it was not easy to fly.
No.
And I ruined it. And then I put lights on it, and we used to fly in the neighborhood. This is back before the drone registry and everything, which people don't realize. And we had one neighbor that complained. One. And fortunately, we had such good relationships with our neighbors that they all bullied her into shutting up.
And it was just annoying, the noise.
It was really annoying. 28mm EDFs are extremely annoying.
Yeah, it was just obnoxious sounding.
But she also thought I was obnoxious.
Well,
Imagine
I mean,
that.
I can't, I'm shocked.
I know, it's hard to believe. So, fruits of the labor though, I mean. So, we're gonna go upstairs and come right back. Okay, so real quick, telemetry. Oh, by the way, AS3X Plus, kind of nice to have 20 channels, isn't it? AS3X Plus. Okay, so you can see there's our voltage. That's gonna sag and drop, and you're gonna hear her chiming because I have a telemetry warning set up. And I'll show you what I did. You don't have to do it this way. Smart battery, it's all off because I hate that warning. But the Smart ESC, I have it set to voice at 3.4. Why 3.4? Because voice warnings are a lot less distracting to me because then I also hear useful data rather than just like beep. I don't know what that means. And so I've done the same timer expiration for years so that I can just quickly and easily recognize that I'm out of time. But having the voice call outs is nice. That's one of the reasons why you wouldn't get an NX7E, because you don't have voice set up. You have some beeps, but that's it. That's about the only reason you would get an 8 now or get a 6, because the 6 doesn't have the right or the roll knob, and it certainly doesn't have the scrollers, okay? So the 8 is gonna give you about the same number of switches, but you're gonna lose the scrollers. So I'm still recommending people go with the 10. By the way, I believe the 10's on sale right now. So I try not to talk about that stuff because by the time you see these videos, sometimes it stops. So check the links. We always put the battery we use in the video description, so it's easy for you guys to find. If we find that a battery works better than what the manufacturer recommended, we'll show that too. Okay, so this is the 100C pack. As you can see, I'm perfectly centered in the tray. I don't feel like it was overly nose heavy or tail heavy because I can flare it anywhere. And then one other design aspect I did not like about this plane is all this wiring that comes out by the elevator. It's a dual ball link elevator off of one singular elevator servo, which is fine, but it's driving right next to all that stuff. Fortunately, it's not a very big movement, but over time it will wear through that wire if you fly this enough. It might take 17 years, and I just don't think that most people are gonna get that type of life. Now also, just to let you know, this 100C pack has seen some rough use, okay?
Yeah.
We usually use this on helis and stuff that are really pumping the juice, okay? So that's why we generally reserve it for helis, because they're about the only things that need this high C rating, okay? We're gonna try a bigger pack in hopes that this 50C, they've done better with puffing because having a little more capacity will sometimes help with puffing, in my experience. I'm not saying that that's some technical trade knowledge that Horizon has said. I'm saying it because that's what's worked for us. Now, this is probably gonna be too heavy and it's probably gonna be terrible. And so I hope I don't eat my words on this or crash, but I am gonna have to put this back quite a bit further. Don't break your antenna. Okay, so now I'm gonna try to pull this up. It is pretty easy to load a 2200. So it's pretty evident that's what they designed it for. But again, we didn't get a manual, so we're not 100% sure. And we didn't hear from our contact yet, so sometimes they get delayed. Okay, so we did our shelf liner trick here. By the way, you notice how I bumped that with my nose? Make sure your throttle cut's on. We did set up thrust reverse, by the way. And so we actually had to use the programmer for it because it wouldn't enter on this screen. It wouldn't go in for us, and it probably won't now. Up elevator, left aileron. So I don't know, maybe our PD sample has something turned off on it, but yours shouldn't have that problem. We did, full disclosure, use our programming tool to jump into the avian to assign thrust reverse and then pilot fatigue here, okay? We'll show you exactly how to do that in our unboxed build radio setup if you're curious, which should be available right now. If you're watching this video, check it out. Should be in the playlist, although YouTube did an update, big surprise, and it stopped working. Some stuff is screwed up right now, which is really irritating because we drive a lot of our traffic through playlists, and that's how we help people find stuff because we have so many videos, okay? So if you're struggling to find things, hopefully YouTube fixes that soon. Okay, so that bigger battery, yeah, it feels like it's gonna be fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably just gonna leave this right here. We're gonna take off that direction because the sun has crossed over the hill. Beautiful sunset, by the way. Show the people. And we're gonna go right now.
Where do you want me?
I want you over there.
On this side? Okay.
Yep. All right, so throttle cuts off, take off flaps deployed. 3250C. There it is. I tried to retract the gear.
I heard you pulled the switch.
If you guys think the roll rate seems a bit anemic, what you can do is you can actually go in and adjust your AS3X gains. Lots of ups for having a big battery. Now let's go full landing flaps on the way downhill and just see how it responds. Wow. Seems fine. I wonder if they're actually recommending a 3200.
Yeah, it looks good.
So let's go on the driveway and we'll just swap back over to our normal spot. So guys, if you're looking for a plane that's just really fun, it's gonna get the job done. You're gonna be able to see on those October early sunsets, this is gonna be the plane for you, okay? When it gets dark early, oh yeah, definitely more anemic on the elevator there. So what I have to do is, I'm basically putting my takeoff flaps out, but I could also take and I could do an elevator to flap mix. You wanna stay where you are?
Okay.
I'm gonna go through this opening and try touch and go. Okay, full landing flaps. I should have gone out further, but we'll be fine. Just slowing it down. Oh yeah. This plane will. Love it. That was actually very good.
That was good.
I think that was super fantastic. So I'm definitely sticking with 3200 4S. I didn't hear one chime.
No.
But look at the amount we've sucked out of that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this thing is a power hungry son of a gun. And we're at 1 minute 53 left and I've already landed. So I got to get back in the air quick. Oh, look, a crane.
Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna take off. Hopefully not scare the crap out of it. I don't want to scare it.
He's going the other direction.
Yeah, right. We want that crane to land. It's so cool to watch. Okay, so just taking a nice cruise, about 40% throttle. We're gonna come in and go around the bowl. Definitely feels heavier on its feet with that bigger pack, but I haven't heard one chime. And I just don't think a lot of people are probably not gonna like how heavy this flies. So we'll do some grass ops for you.
Nice.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and take off. Remember, I told you this thing does grass ops, and because we have telemetry, we don't really need to obey the timer. We'll just respect the warnings, okay? Oh, what did I must have hit a low spot. I'll reset and come right back. Okay, so I thought of another cool place to take off, and then we'll do grass ops. Take off flaps, even heavy as it is, 3200 4S. We're gonna take off in this opening like we do with a lot of STOL planes. About 50 feet of runway here, and I'm live, guys. I'm in the air, going over the damn runway. Yeah, it definitely feels like we got tons of expo on the elevator with this bigger pack. And it just does what you want. It's really a pretty easy to fly plane. I still don't buy that it's like a beginner sort of plane. Sure, could you put it on in the hands of a beginner? Maybe. I just think that jets in general, it'll help you learn how to do what you're doing. And by the way, look how short that landing strip was, okay? Takeoff flaps deployed. Now we have plenty of room and it is a little bit bumpy here, but we'll go ahead and get off the ground. Full up elevator. There we go, out of the flaps. Takeoff flaps, now landing flaps. Bounce it in the air, out of the flaps immediately. Get that thing speeding up. Now take off flaps. I don't know if you guys saw how I did that. I did no flaps, get the thing moving. Increase the drag a little bit for takeoff flaps. Then landing flaps, let's slow it down. Let's do a little slip, 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 slip. And then here we go. Ooh, yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Oh, the ventral fins have demonstrated themselves.
Perfect.
By the way, the ventral fins did not come off on that grass landing.
Either one.
Or our other grass landing. These are magnetic, okay? So I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to be used on your switches.
Probably not.
But they are magnetic, okay? Evidently that isn't metal. It's some other material. But it's super easy to put them back on, and that's part of the reason why we love this, because they really did think of everything. This build, by the way, is so dang easy.
Yeah.
Our early product development sample, oh, we got grass in there though. Look.
Yeah, grass in the...
I'm gonna try to blow it out.
You did.
You ready?
Throw them out?
Good enough. It looks like the wires just kind of trap a little bit. Not enough that I can't fly it though. By the way, look at that gorgeous sunset in the glass. It's so huge.
It is. Are you gonna get off the ground from there?
Oh, probably not. But I'll show you, the ground handling is something fierce. Very good. Okay, so as you can see, now, thrust reverse.
You're shooting.
What?
You're shooting stuff out.
Grass?
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, okay.
I want to get it out. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
I mean, if this was like a real plane, I'd probably be a little bit more concerned, like if our lives are on the line. But it is a real plane, it's just small. Full landing flaps there on this turn. That was takeoff flaps on the last turn. Around the cherry. Full landing flaps here again. Into ground effect. Hard on the throttle. A little bit of rudder to point that nose where we want it. Keep it flying. You'll notice it hasn't tip stalled on me yet, guys. Do you want to see the tip stall that everybody complains about? I'll show you what it looks like. I'm not one that has this happen a lot, but it has happened to me. Okay, so you're coming in on final, and you're like, okay, take off flaps, take off flaps, take off flaps. Look, I'm riding the elevator. I'm riding the elevator. Oh no, everybody died. It's probably actually, that was a bad demo of the stall because I kind of like pointed it into the ground. I can actually demonstrate what it looks like. This is a power on stall, take off flaps. About 30%, watch this. Nope, it just doesn't want to go. The AS3X is keeping up out of the... I cannot believe that they had that fixed with such a big battery. There's no way. All right, I gotta try it again. Okay, power on stall, about 40% throttle, full up elevator. And I'm just gonna turn. Good lordy lord, that thing's just like hesitant. It doesn't even go. Yeah. And there was, of course, a mosquito biting my face while that happened. Now I'm gonna end up stalling. Full landing flaps, bringing it down, get that airspeed. See, that's the other thing you gotta watch out for on this jet, is it will bounce if you carry in too much speed. So I'm gonna slow it down now. And the neighbor's got something going.
No kidding, are they like starting a rock quarry?
I mean, that's what everybody does on Sunday night around here.
Yeah.
There it is, guys. And that would be pilot fatigue if you've never seen it. That goes to full throttle when this is pulled all the way back, and it's controllable in that position, but I actually need to go forward. So let's see how much voltage we have left. We've been flying this for a long time, a lot of takeoffs, a lot of landings. Guys, we might have found the diamond in the rough here. Look at this. I mean, we got a lot of flight time out of this so far, and we haven't been super nice to it. I mean, I don't think they're probably recommending this pack size because it's big, but maybe they are. Well, the 2200 4S just, you know, I mean, if you were okay with the 4-minute flight time, you're probably okay. Oh, it's pulsing. We'll try landing here.
Okay.
The funny thing is this plane will fly and gain altitude and do everything in the oh, crappers. That is so funny because I've crashed into that tree with other Vipers. But that one's way up there. We're gonna be doing some stick of shaming. So the moral of the story is it's a good plane. I think you're gonna like it. Just don't hit trees with it. Man, that tree is just the one that gets me.
It's getting dark too, so we're gonna have to get that.
Okay, so if you wanna help support Brian Phillips RC and all the things we do RC, YouTube, super thanks, YouTube members, Patreon, PayPal, and then of course buying things from the links in the video description below is the best way to support us. Buy the plane, battery, transmitters, receivers, things like that, and we'll help you get from the box into the air or from the chair into the air is what we usually say. And just remember guys, there's never been an easier time to start flying than now. We're gonna help get you there. So stay tuned, so much more from Brian Phillips RC. So stick of shame extreme. What'd you say about it?
It's a little floppy.
That's what she said. Oh, by the way, the audio's bad because I took my mic off.
Yeah, sorry.
This is kind of long, guys. Look at this. We're hoping that's long enough to recover our 70mm Viper.
Which is right there.
So, wish us luck. I'm sure this will be the most entertaining part of the video because, as always, we are gluttons for punishment.
And we're off. Oh, geez.
Evidently, it was way too floppy. And it bent right in half. That's the first time we've ever had it break like that. I think that usually happens once in these type of projects. So we'll be back if we get it.
Okay, so this is round 2. Sorry, we don't have mics, so I'm right here by my phone and then the noise from the tractor. So he added an aluminum dock piece, and then the stick of shame is in that and taped, and then we put a light at the end of the ladder and a light at the end of the stick of shame, and then I have 2 giant flashlights in my pocket. So we're just gonna go down there and see if we can even reach or how far away we are. So you can obviously see the plane now that it's dark better because you can see the lights on the wingtips. So our tree line is here in the foreground, and then there's a ravine that's probably 20 to 30 feet deep, and then it's actually in a tree on the other side of the ravine.
Okay, YouTube, so it got dark, and in a blast of intentional wisdom, unexpected wisdom, I decided to wait for daylight. So as you can see, my beautiful apparatus, after having broke my stick of shame about 12 inches down the rung, I decided it'd be awesome to mount some flashlights. Check out this tactical gear on my tactical ladder. First of all, these ladders are not designed to be like this, in case you knew that. Leave it in the comments below. I'm sure you will anyway. This light, amazing
Has
choice.
some high quality.
And as you can see, we have taped.
Is that tactical
right
tape?
This is tactical tape.
Okay.
And then as you can see, this is what's flimsy.
Still a little floppy.
And it is incredibly difficult to get this thing to stay put. But it will bounce a lot without breaking, which is incredible. I think we should tie a string all the way back to the load backrest of the fork adapter. The camera crew disagrees.
Because the camera crew knows how far away we still are.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let her be right, and hopefully we don't break this any more than it's already broken, because it's gonna look even more impotent than it already does.
This is a breakneck speed with which we can attempt this operation. The plane, man, it's harder to see today. It did blow a little bit from today. There's a dead tree right here. The plane is right up here. It was really easy to see last night when the lights were still on. But the battery is dead, so the lights are off. It's not beeping or anything, which is good, but it is a little bit harder to see today. It has blown a little bit in the wind, so he seems to think that we're pretty close. My assistant camera crew and I seem to think that we're not very close at all. If we had a way to extend our reach from right here on the hillside, we still are a long ways away. But then if he has to go down all the way, this right here in front of him is a pretty steep hill. This is actually one of the spots on our property that he really doesn't like to use the tractor on, because it is fairly steep right here. So he's about straight out. So here's the tip of the stick of shame, and he's about straight out from the plane now, but he's probably 30 feet away, you think, Andrew?
Yeah, he's going further down tonight.
And as he's going downhill, we're gonna go over to this side. I think that's about as far as he went yesterday. Okay, I'm gonna try and get past. See, right now it's right behind the live tree. Come down here a little bit so you can see it. So, plane is here. Stick of shame tip is there. That is a long way still. I still say it's like 30 feet.
It's better now. We need something stronger in between the stick of shame and the ladder. The ladder is a good base.
The ladder is a good base, and he is further down the hill than he was last night, because it was getting dark, so he didn't want to try anything too too crazy. It's supposed to be windy tomorrow. I wish we could see how the plane was stuck to see how it might blow out of there. It definitely moved from yesterday. So I hear a cat. There's our cat down there right next to this little tree. There's our Colby hanging out. What?
This is why it's hard to harvest hay here.
Yeah.
You guys can see how steep this is. It's the type of steep you fall out of your chair. By the way, that's not twice again as far.
Well, you were further than you were last night.
I knew I was going to be further.
It's still a long ways.
Also come in at a slightly different angle and avoid this tree. I don't disagree, we're a long ways away. But I just want you guys to understand, that is a pretty awesome design. That's just, it's not that far. It feels so close.
But it's
so
far still.
And if I come down here toward where the cat's coming from,
Yep.
then what's going to happen is I'm going to lose altitude of like 8 or 10 feet. Not 8 or 10, but let's call it 6 or 7 feet.
At least.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So if I come at it square from here, then I'm like dangerous, precariously dangerous on my way down, because I have to go perpendicular to this hill or I'm going to die.
Right.
Roll the tractor and not get the plane down.
And then we'll have a broken ladder.
I'm glad you're worried about that. So now we have to figure out, does a longer stick even make sense to try to get over there? Because I don't know that it does. And I don't think we can hang a hook from down below because it's too far embedded into the tree. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we haven't walked down in there because it was dark last night.
So we have a very important update about the very personal decision to make it longer. I brought the whole family out and we worked together on it. It was very embarrassing at first, but we did make it longer. 45 feet to here, plus another 10 feet to the cab, which is where the human would stand, with a few feet of, addition. So that's like 55 feet of reach. This is the biggest mistake I've ever made.
Mosquito.
You had a perfect opportunity.
I know.
So, in terms of length, it's one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we found the hole we want to hit. We're going to crawl down there and try not to break it off. We slid everything out as far as we think we can do without really giving up our structural integrity.
Yep.
And what we're going to do is we're going to give it one more college try and hope for the best. And then I hope to be proven the camera crew wrong in just mere moments.
Hopefully.
Would you hold my 16-footer?
Sure.
Okay, so this is what it's like to be in the tractor with tremendous power and authority, but mostly air conditioning. It's very nice, but watch this thing wiggle. Watch how touchy this is. I kick up my RPMs a little bit. Should get the hydraulics flowing a little better. And then this is a cross control, so I'm gonna pull this toward my knee, try to give you guys a shot of both. Who would have thought? See, I'm just resisting with my leg, and that's how I'm controlling the speed. Once I get down the hill, then I pull back on this cross control, and that brings up the boom. So that's gonna give me my first 10 feet, and then the 45 feet additional with a little bit of limpness should get us where we need to go. Remember, this whole apparatus is better vertical. It actually works vertical. It's designed to be vertical, and that's the way it looks. And then I'm in low gear, 4-wheel drive. All we needed was like $40,000+ worth of equipment to recover this $200 plane.
Your thing looks really limp though.
Come on, give me a minute. Sometimes it just takes a little effort to get it up. Come on, you can do it. Yes. Yes. Once it starts, there's no stopping it. Unless it breaks in half, which has happened only one time within the last 24 hours. Come on, get it up. Oh, that's now I'm out of an angle. Now I have to go to throw up.
Okay.
So my throw up is a safety issue, so I gotta go down there first.
Okay.
Because otherwise I'm too likely to tip. So I'm gonna close the door and drive.
Hey YouTube, it's the camera crew and my smallest helper. I just took a picture, and I should have taken a video. We came out, the kids and I came out. My dad was here helping us with some stuff, and we all looked up in the tree, and I said, the plane is gone. It's down. We came down here and looked for a few minutes, and we could not see it anywhere. And so we went back inside. The kids were in the middle of making lunch and everything, and so we went back inside to finish up. And so Caleb and I threw on some jeans and some tennis shoes and some grubby clothes, and we are all the way, I'm actually going to turn around. We are all the way down here. We shimmied down this dead tree to get down to the other creek.
There's a wheel down here.
There's tires and lots of garbage, and there's just a little bit of water in this, but we are kind of standing on this little sandbar right here. So it fell way, way, way down, all the way through this canopy of honeysuckle, and was lodged right here in front of me, right up here.
And we found it.
In the tree, and I found it. So I got it back, and it is surprisingly not damaged. There's obviously some branch damage here on the front of the wings. That gouge is pretty bad, but I know Brian can fix that. Some damage here to the yellow paint. Here on top, we did go ahead and unplug the battery because it's been plugged in for several days. The nose cone is gone. We're going to kind of spend a couple of minutes just scouring this area. But on here, I thought I have to report that I found the plane. I got it back. Haven't talked to him. He's in a plant today, so I haven't even told Brian yet. But we've done some footage of us trying to get it out of the tree, and it wasn't even very windy today, so I don't know what happened. But it's down, and I have it. So we are going to take it back up to the house.
Okay, so it fell out of the tree on its own, which is crazy because we built the largest stick of shame we've ever built, and yet we still have the Viper ready to hand launch again. I don't think any of the servers are broken, but I just want to give you a quick damage assessment of how we did. Damage here, damage here, damage here, damage here, a little bit of damage here. That I can fix pretty easy if I really cared, but I don't necessarily care right now. Damage, 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 mostly scrapes, and then damage along the leading edge of this wing, okay? So if this was my only plane, I could make it darn near perfect. And because the nose cone popped off, we could also order a new one, but it's not a release, so we can't order yet. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that. Maybe I can find another crash plane and that's bigger and just cut back the tip or something, just to get by for now. But the thing is, the plane is in one piece. I think everything is gonna snap to life, but then inside, okay, so on the bottom, there's one thing that broke that I wasn't expecting that we would find, and that is the ventral fins. They actually survived that whole process, and this was just sitting there off to the side. So all I have to do on this is basically leave the magnet in place, and I'm gonna actually just go a little bit of CA, and only time that you see me using CAs is pretty much on magnets, which is so funny because I'm gonna actually put a little bit here because it's really hard to get them to stick otherwise. And that is just regular CA, and it's gap filling. So it's medium CA. And we'll just let that set up here for a second. And so Insecure. And if you guys ever need products like this, we have a supplies tab on bprc.me, or you can go to brianphillipsrc.com and just look at supplies. It's one of the tabs up at the top. And then I use this Instastat kicker. Now there's also some Zap brand products that you can buy from Horizon. If you're buying an airplane, you can just get that at the same time, save a little bit on shipping. Okay, now let's go to the battery. Did the battery get destroyed? This was found while I was at work, obviously. That's why I wore clothes. Okay. Some of you guys have seen this before, okay? Dead, right? So throw it away, right? That's what the manufacturer is going to tell you. What do we know about LiPos that have a smart chip? There's no bounce lead. So how do you tell what the voltage is? Well, there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. You could even go so simple as to use a smart checker or non-smart checker to actually use and make connections, or you could use a digital multimeter. So what I want to do is I want to show you two things. So come over here to the chargers. So obviously somebody was flying today, it wasn't me. So I'm just going to move some of these off of the chargers and see what happens when I try to plug it in. So when I try to plug it in, it comes up with data. It says 2.2 volts. And if you press and hold this, it thinks it's a 3S, but it's not, okay? It thinks it's a 3S. because it doesn't know what the voltage is. So it's not going to start, okay? So show them the screen. Okay? So as you can see, it thinks it's a 3S, and it's clearly a 4S, okay? So what happens is you have to actually get this thing started, okay? So there's a bunch of different ways you can get a battery started. First things first, use your digital multimeter, preferably the really crappy one that you got for free from Harbor Freight Tools. 200 volts DC. I'm going to go to the negative terminal and the positive terminal and just see what we got. Yeah, see, we're 4.1 volts. 4.1 volts DC. Okay, 4.1 volts DC. Right? So we know that we're low, right? It's not dead, it's just low. If it was 0, then that would be a bit of a problem. You might not be able to get it back. But because we know it's just been sitting in a tree discharging, we're pretty safe to go ahead and juice it up, okay? So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. There's a million different ways, but these little banana jacks on the correct battery can actually be a nice way to do this. It doesn't always work for the size, but it just depends on the size of the battery. Obviously, this is going to be too small, so you can't use that. Something like this, it might actually work, because really all you're going to be doing is you're just going to be making a contact, okay? So if you have your meter already, you could potentially use the leads. But just remember, this step is where you can get into the dangerous factor, and you could actually cause a fire, so you need to be careful about that, okay? Okay, so you take a battery that's got charge on it, and it's easy to tell what the charge is by using a meter, or you can just plug it into an XPC battery checker and see where it's 16.8. So that's actually a lot higher than we need. We just need something that's greater than the nominal voltage of dead, okay? It's gotta make sure it gets back into the range, but you definitely don't wanna overdo it. So you wouldn't use like a 6S, you would use something that's similar if you can. Now remember, this has a smart circuit on it as well. Both of these have battery management circuits on them, okay? So there's less likelihood that you're gonna actually damage a cell, but there's still a likelihood that you will take a lot of this into this quick. So you're not gonna wanna like connect the batteries together. You have to connect them together to a certain extent, but how do you do that? Because all the connectors are the wrong polarity, okay? So what I usually like to do is I'll get an adapter of sorts. Okay, so this is the one we need to get juice into, and then you can, go something like that. And then what I like to do is I use these off of a meter, I think years ago, and see, they don't quite fit there, but we got this thing a long time ago, and it goes to motor leads. Okay, so then you can do something like this, and that gives you another way to adapt, but you're still kind of having problems because it's all the same leads. So I'll show you what I do when I get that set. Okay, so what ends up working really nice is you get a parallel adapter. Okay, this is not a series adapter because the negative goes to the negative and the negative goes to the negative. So you take two 4S's and make an 8S, or two 3S's and make a 6S. In this case, we're going to take one and the other, and the rule of thumb is you're to use these adapters with like charged batteries, meaning that they have 100% each or 99% each or something like that. So what you do is you plug this in, and then what you're going to do is you're going to give this a burst of power. So you want to let it go for a count of like 1 or 2. And it's going to take this voltage and go into this, and it's going to do it very quick. Okay? So you got to be quick with it. 1, 2. And then what's going to happen is, now, you remember this thing wouldn't start? You do have to be careful. And so I like to do that with hands over each connector. Look at that. 12 volts. And that's going to drop like a rock. Okay. Because we haven't actually put that much power into it, but we've got the battery management circuit hopefully alive. And so I'm going to just switch to channel 2, channel 1. See, it's not alive enough though. See how quick it drops like a rock. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4. Okay. Now watch this. I'll go to the other channel so you can see if it wakes up or not. So still not quite waking up. Ooh, I heard a beep. I don't think it's going to go yet. We need a little bit more juice. I'm actually going to reset that because we might get it confused. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5. Because remember, this thing can discharge only as fast as you can pull the load, okay? This thing will accept the load just about as fast as this cable will handle. So you gotta be careful. You don't have any current limitations beyond what the battery management circuit will control. And it only really controls the balance portion of the circuit. So now that we're on, look at that. Initiating the smart charge. So look guys, crash battery, come back a lot so you can see. So all we did was we took the sacrificial, brand new, you know, working battery, whatever, and we put it down. And now look, we're at 3% power, 3.2 amps charge rate, and we've already got 11 milliamps in there. So that is one of the ways you can get away with it. Now, I'm not saying that you should necessarily do this for every pack that comes out of a crash, because sometimes they get physically damaged. And so of course the manufacturer's recommendation would be to replace a battery like that. But they would also like you to buy more batteries anyway. So this is gonna charge, and anytime there's a battery that comes out of a crash, you wanna keep a closer eye on it than you would normally. But the cool thing is, we've got a plain back. Check the ventral fin now. So the ventral fin, just rock it off. Look at that.
Perfect.
So we got everything out of this crash. And let's just be honest. Will this thing power cycle? Pause and we'll come right back. So we have 4 minutes timer, Viper, okay? Viper 64. So just pop this open. Now full disclosure, I would have showed picking it up, but it was down in a ditch and it's kind of like not really our property. So the little bit we could show would have been shown from a public facing angle, and we just want to be respectful of our neighbors. It's already kind of a, oh sweet. So I want to see if that turns. That's the one that made me nervous. Okay. And remember, there was nothing wrong with this plane. It was just a pilot error. I just misjudged the height. Okay, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, take off flaps, landing flaps. Okay, and then rudder, rudder. Yep, both are working.
Yep.
And then we have AS3X and safe that we can check. So let's check throttle. Throttle cuts off. Oh, I've got my throttle wrapped up really good here. Throttle cuts back hard. I always wrap my lanyard like this, and that gives me double protection because I hold the stick down. That's so that I don't bump it while I'm screwing around and doing stuff like this. Okay, throttle cut is now off. Forward thrust. Okay, now I'm going to do reverse thrust, controllable, and then throttle cuts on and test it. So that proves all functions of the plane are intact. It's going to fly again. It's going to be no problem. The only thing about it is cosmetic, and the cosmetic damage can actually be filled in with spackle here. And then with here, probably what I'll do is I'll end up popping this edge out. I'll probably end up just pulling that out, kind of gluing the edges back in, and then gluing this back down. And then that last little bit I'll fill in with spackle, which is easy. Lightweight spackle. And then I'll use lightweight spackle here, and it will look darn near brand new. It's still disappointing to crash, and obviously it's embarrassing when we put this stuff on YouTube for the world to see. But crashing is kind of part of the hobby. And if you're afraid of crashing, you're probably in the wrong hobby. Because especially when you're brand new, you're gonna crash, okay? And I'm not brand new, and I still crash a lot. But also, when you fly close to trees, you're gonna eventually hit a tree. If you fly close to the ground, you're gonna eventually hit the ground. And if you fly close to birds, you're gonna hit birds. It just depends on how much exposure you have. And since we have a lot of exposure, we fly all over those trees all the time, so I should have judged it better. And part of our issue is we go from a size like this to a size that's double this size, back to a size that's this, and a size that's smaller, and so on and so forth. And that really does make it difficult. But totally a pilot error, great flying plane, love it on 3200, wish we would have started there. And otherwise, E-flite did a really nice job on this, so we hope that you guys won't be deterred at all. And I know you won't be deterred from a plane because Brian crashed. But we do like to share our whole experience, and our whole experience sometimes can lead some brand new pilots to actually learn how to find a plane, learn how to recover a plane, and learn how to fix it up so that it can be flyable again. You could go fly this right now, you wouldn't have to fix anything on it. And nose cone or not, you know, it's still in flyable condition.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sweet. So
And
that is super good.
just because you crash doesn't mean your plane is automatically going to be destroyed.
No, a lot of times
they're
not destroyed. And a lot of times they're actually, especially when you're a beginner, you're going to have some cosmetic damage. It's going to make you less self-conscious about it, and you're going to be less scared to fly it and less scared to land it, okay? And it's kind of weird because once you crash a plane, it's like, you know, no big deal. I can crash this. It's not the end of the world if it breaks a landing gear off, or, you know, I crack the wing or whatever. You know, it's not like we have to have an FAA examiner look over this plane now.
Right.
But you're responsible for your plane's safety. Try to keep them in good a shape as you can. And obviously don't hit trees if you don't want to have damage. But in this case, that is the furthest I've ever been in a tree. So really, really happy to be seeing this on the ground level. And that was pretty cool. So guys, obviously we're gonna have a clip of flying this when it's all touched up. And hopefully that'll be closing out this video. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching. Guys, if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, check out the links in the video description below. Buy them from those links, help support us financially. And also we have YouTube Super Thanks, YouTube members if you want to be a monthly supporter, which is super nice. And then of course Patreon for monthly support, as well as PayPal if you want one-time donations, but you don't want to be part of the rest of that stuff. Or if you don't like this particular model or this particular size of Viper, and you want to see the other Vipers we've done in the past, all you have to do is check out bprc.me or brianphillipsrc.com. Same place, one's a short link, one's a long. And that way you can compare and contrast models sorted by type or brand affiliate that we worked with. And we're working on size class as well. And eventually we'll get to, you know, size class, EDF size, things like that. It's gonna make it really easy for you guys to compare and contrast similar models when you're hard pressed for RC budget. All right, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. And all it took was a week of waiting for Mother Nature to let it down. You guys saw our ridiculous efforts. And at the end of the day, you want to know what did it? A big gust of wind at some point, and then a lot of spackle. Still not cleaned up totally. And thanks to my son for printing me a 3D printed nose cone. It's not perfect, but it's close enough to get us by until we can actually order these parts, because you can't order them before they're released. And yes, we did mark the CG at 75 to 85 millimeters, and that's perfect with a 3200 4S all the way back as we showed in our flights. So our intuition was good, but I just want you guys to say, when you crash, it's not always the end of the world. Take off flaps. Here we go. Look how rock solid that thing is. Slowing back the throttle, inside pass now. 40% throttle with the wind. She lives to see another day. Wave to your parking spot. Beautiful. So guys, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC and you haven't seen me crash yet, don't worry, there'll be more. And if you really want to learn how to avoid crashing, be part of this group. We'll help teach you. We'll teach you how to push the envelope, and then also how to come back from the envelope so that you can have a positive experience. Oh, buddy. You want to know what that was? That was the worst touch and went I've ever done. I was trying to flare into that landing and it didn't stay flared. I didn't have enough authority. Take off flaps, landing flaps. Right over the trees and down. The pilot fatigue was kind of slow to turn on there, but it worked fine. Okay, so we're gonna go back to forward thrust. We'll do a takeoff with the wind here. The moral of the story is, guys, don't give up if you crash. It's kind of part of the thing, you know. By the way, I gotta say, my elevator feels weak. Do I have like my elevator trim screwed up? Oh, you know what it is? I bet my nose is heavier, so I'm not used to it. Because I've got that little
Yeah.
bit extra weight on the,
I bet it is.
all the way on the end of the nose. So cool. Beautiful skies. Rock solid performance from the Viper. 64, one of my favorite 64s so far, I'd say. The thing just, it flies every bit as good as the 70. Might even be a little bit more ballsy on this big pack. Oh yeah. It's definitely got that oomph to it, that push to it. Okay, full landing flaps, wake up that elevator a little bit. So now that we've got that heavier nose cone on there, I'm gonna definitely try to squish that battery back a little teeny bit further if I can when I'm flying on this bigger pack. And just wanted to show you that it wasn't the pack that did it, it wasn't the plane that did it, it was just your wonderful host and favorite YouTube celebrity, Brian Phillips. All right, let's just show Mother Nature who's boss. Over the same spot I crashed. There it is, guys. Pilot fatigue, janking it. Guys, if you've never experienced pilot fatigue, it's a fun setting to have. No, you don't need it, but yes, you want it. And also, I gotta say, even though my nose is not perfect now, it definitely looks pretty good. So thanks to my kid for doing that. We kind of came up with that. That was our second revision. Tried to match the lines pretty good. And with a little bit of touch-up paint, I think we could get it closer. Now, let's do one quick evaluation of wheels off with my new setup, okay? So we're gonna pause and come right back. Okay, so we didn't talk a lot about launch assist the other day when we were filming. So I'm just gonna show you. I'm gonna put it in safe. Okay, so when you're in safe and you give throttle, then you throw it, it's gonna automatically pitch up and keep it level, okay? So throttle cuts off, make sure you're in forward thrust, launch into the wind still, and I am not gonna give any input on this other than throttle, and I'm just gonna like show you the controls so you guys can see, okay? You ready? This is with the bigger battery.
Okay.
There it is. No input, none whatsoever. Now it's delatched and it's just in regular safe. Switched out of it. Now it's just flying like before. Only difference is no ugly gear. Man, that looks so sweet, doesn't it?
It really does.
Up real high, into the blue abyss. Sorry, camera crew.
Sorry.
High speed pass, outside. There it is, guys. Man, look at that thing cover some ground, baby. So if you didn't know what launch assist does, it basically resets itself when you put the throttle back to 0. It's like 5% threshold for resetting itself. Or if you have a landing full stop, I think it also does. But then it only does that in the launch. So it knows not to just like jank your plane like this and level the wings. Plus it only does it in safe. So if you're in AS3X or you have it off, it won't do that. And yes, you can set up that plane feature. You can set up that feature in any AS3X Plus model, which is pretty nice. Now, I don't think all models are gonna need it, but it might be nice for certain models that you like to go between landing gear and back to wheels up, wheels down. Okay. Slow flight now. Take off flaps into the throttle, reasonably hard. Right through the hole, guys, hard on the throttle and straight up. I'm gonna go through the opening over here, hon. You good? Mm-hmm. Already been in one tree with this plane. I don't wanna be in another. But man, I love those high-speed knife edges. Couple 3 clicks of trim on the elevator, just because I've been kind of riding the elevator on level flight. I don't want to do that. But boy, oh boy, those lights show up so nice.
They're great tonight.
Don't be afraid to coordinate your turns in your Viper. You pretty much need to keep that nose pointed down or she'll bite you. One right down the runway. Ooh, almost kissed it. There's our first warning. So I'm gonna go into efficiency mode here. I'm no flaps, I'm clean. Takeoff flaps are turning on now. Just a little teeny bit of throttle. We'll go way out ahead of, right ahead of you, you trees. I might need to take it around in a circle actually, hon.
Okay.
I've got a bad line right now, so remember, just save your power for when you need it. And when you need it is usually right before you touch down, okay? And get out of your flaps early because the flaps are gonna be delayed a little bit if you set them up the way I did, okay? So out of the flaps, into ground effect, and there it is, guys. Takeoff flaps off. Throttle cuts on, 5 minutes and 7 plus 4, so 9 minutes of flight time, no problem. And as you can see, our telemetry takes care of pretty much where we are. So what have we learned? Crashing into trees, even 60 to 70 feet up, is not a fatal blow for your airplane, but it might be, okay? Also, I did have to fix quite a bit on this plane cosmetically, but there was not one single function that got lost except for the nose cone.
Right.
And so that, of course, had to do with the way we hit the tree and not necessarily the design of the plane. Now, also, we had access to a 3D printer or 4 and a skilled 3D printer operator, which is not me. And so we were able to get all this stuff back together. Also, our ventral fin did break off of the magnet only and yet didn't get lost, which is pretty incredible. So I would call this whole endeavor an amazing success. I mean, obviously it would have been more successful if we wouldn't have crashed, but you know what? Crashing is just part of it, guys. If you can't handle a crash, you probably are in the wrong hobby. And especially with EDF jets and stuff like that, you're bound to eventually get nipped in the bud, especially if you push it all the time. Speaking of pushing it all the time, push this all the way back, you'll get better performance. You really want to get that thing a little bit more tail heavy. And here's a quick profile of how we got that. We got this angle, it's just a little bit too tall here. And then we got this angle pretty good actually. And it worked out really nice. So proud of my son for helping me figure that out. And if it was painted, I think it would match better because there's actually a diagonal tip paint that's darker. And then this gray carries up front. So it would blend better if we had that done too.
Yeah.
So, but then the spackle and stuff is still just sitting up, you know, on the surface. Haven't had a chance to really wipe it down anymore. And just a little bit here and there that just didn't get wiped out. And I would usually cut that in with some markers and stuff. So, but guys, thanks for being part of Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for letting us be some of the first to bring you some of the first. It's really an honor within the RC community to be entrusted with the ability to do this. And so we want to say special thanks to Horizon for working with us, for taking a risk on us because we are very truthful and we do make mistakes. But at the end of the day, we want our affiliate companies that we work with to succeed. But at the end of the day, remember, who writes the check? You guys. You're the ones that are in charge. You are hundreds of thousands of little bosses running around saying this is what we want. And that's what we do. So Horizon, as much as we appreciate working with you, E-flite, as good a job as you do with this model, we answer to them. Remember it. Not you. Period. Thank you, audience. Have her back. Buy one. Links in the video description below.